Hello and welcome, I'm Oles Garajuk and you're watching Head to Head with UATV. The Constitutional Court of Ukraine has recognized constitutional the law on condemning communist and national-socialist totalitarian regimes in Ukraine and a ban on promoting their symbols. To talk more about the ongoing process of decommunization in Ukraine, we're joined in the studio today by Serhiy Ryabenko, expert of the Institute of National Remembrance. Hello and thank you for joining us today. So this law is one of the most famous, probably after the Revolution of Dignity. Did it have a lot of potential, in your opinion, to be lifted?
To my mind, yes, because when we, as the experts of the NGO, when we started our work on writing the project of this law, we used the same laws that were adopted in the European countries of the Central and Eastern Europe, of our neighbor countries such as Poland, such as the Baltic states, such as Hungary, such as the Czech Republic, the Slovakia, and so on. And that is why it was not just somehow the Ukrainian know-how, but it was the one of the stage of the process that started in the European countries at the end of 1980s, at the beginning of 1990s. Only after the Revolution of Dignity, Ukraine reached the possibility to adopt such law and to start such a process of decommunization based on the law.
Mm-hmm. So basically you believe that it had all the potential, it had chances to be lifted, but also you referred that while preparing the draft law before the adoption, you used the existing laws that are being enforced in the Eastern European countries as some kind of example, right? Some kind of pattern. Now, I do know that these processes of decommunization in Eastern European countries, they differ a lot from the process that we have right now in Ukraine, because decommunization is being perceived there as not letting the members of Communist Party to rule the country. Basically, I'm referring right now to the law in Czechoslovakia that was adopted in 1991, that basically it was prohibiting all the representatives of the old regime, communist regime, to obtain any top managing or executive positions in the state and governing bodies. But at the same time, the demolition of different symbols and monuments, or dismantlement of monuments and renaming the streets, it was done more by the local communities. So I would like to ask you, how do Ukrainian people perceive this decommunization process, the law, and would you see it possible maybe to have this draft about limiting the powers and the abilities to obtain some certain position for the representatives of old regime to be adopted also in Ukraine?
You are absolutely right, saying that one of the part of the decommunization process in the countries of Eastern and Central Europe was the process of lustration. It started after the fall of the communist regimes in these countries, and after that, in some of them, the special laws on lustration were adopted. But in Ukraine, the situation was a little bit different, because we started our process of decommunization based on law for more than 25 years when we received our independent country, when we for which we struggled during the 20th century. And at that time, mostly those people who obtained the highest posts in the Soviet nomenclature, who were the highest officers of the KGB, they were no more the members of the government. They were very little represented in the parliament. Partly they were represented in some local communities, but it was not such a critical point as for the countries of Eastern Europe after the fall of communism. That is why when in the year 2014 the Ukrainian parliament adopted the law on lustration, it was mostly connected with the people, with the functionaries of the previous President Yanukovych power, but only a little part of it was closely connected to the former KGB officers and the members of the former Soviet regime.
So what you mean that in Ukraine, communists were not such a big threat comparing to other Eastern European countries after gaining the independence?
No, it was, but after the existence of the independent Ukraine for the period of time for more than 20 years, most of them were very old people, and they were not represented in the government posts such critically as in the countries, as in our neighbor countries, such as Poland, such as the Czechoslovakia, such as Hungary, such as the Baltic states when they received their independence in the fall of 1980s or at the beginning of 1990s. So, to my mind, Ukrainian parliament should adopted such a law at the beginning of independence of Ukraine, at the beginning of 1990s, but nowadays it is not so critical position for me to have such a law. It is just a moral duty of the Ukrainian parliament to say that the former communist regime was a criminal one and it should not be glorified. And it was done also by adaptation the package of the laws on decommunization at the year of 2015.
Yes, let's remind our audience that these laws were adopted in 2015, and I just want to let our viewers, give our viewers some understanding that more than 52,000 place names have been changed in the country over 4 years, right? And more than 300 historical names were restored. 2,500 monuments and memorial signs, which had been praising the totalitarian regime of the Soviet Union, have been dismantled across all of the country over 4 years. Also, almost 1,000 settlements, 25 districts, almost 52,000 toponyms have been renamed. So there has been a lot of discussion where this law is usable or not, and that's why probably we are discussing right now the case that the Constitutional Court has been reviewing the law. Could you please explain the audience what was the reason for that?
This claim that the Constitutional Court, this case that the Constitutional Court was dealing with, it was not the first episode when some politicians of Ukrainian parliament tried to claim for this law on decommunization to the Constitutional Court. I should remind that after the adoption of this law in the year 2015, more than 45 deputies of the Ukrainian parliament that were the representatives of the oppositional bloc, the oppositional party, they also claimed to the Constitutional Court, and the main argument was that they thought that the procedure of the adaptation of this law has been broken by the Ukrainian parliament. But at the same year of 2015, the Constitutional Court made a decision that it was not the position, it was not the point that the Constitutional Court should deal with. And after that, we received the second claim from these deputies of the oppositional party, and the main argument was that they thought that the law on decommunization was against the Ukrainian constitution, the norms of the constitution, against the rights and freedoms guaranteed by the constitution. But yesterday, the Constitutional Court made a final point on this case and said that this law is not against the Ukrainian constitution. Everything is okay with this law.
Which is great. Let's discuss also some comments from the people who are expected to step into the parliament. Leader of the Servant of the People Party, Dmytro Razumkov, has said that the decision on decommunization should be taken in local referendum. Quote, we have observed the renaming of cities, villages. It is possible. The problem lies in another plan. The decisions must be made by those who live there. What is your take on that? Should this process be nationalized right now, as it is right now, or should it go onto the local level?
You see, if we are speaking about the law on decommunization, it is connected with the activity of the local communities, because
right.
the decisions, what should be the name of the street, it is the decision of the local city or
body.
settlement council and the people who live on this territory.
But what about referendum?
No, we do not have the referendum now, only because we do not have the special law on local referendum that
right.
explains the procedure.
It's his idea about the referendum.
But the law we are speaking about, it has another procedure. It has the procedure of consultation with the members of local community. And all the people who live in the settlement, they have the possibility to give their point of view about the new name of the street that should be remained, for example. If they want, they may use their right. If they do not want, it's up to them. So the referendum is just the mechanism to ask their point of view, but it is one of the many mechanisms.
Many tools, yes. Do you support this tool, the referendum tool?
I think it's not, for now, it's not a very good idea because we have
pricey?
we had the so-called referendum on the Crimea Peninsula in the year 2014 that was used by the Russian Federation to make the annexation of the part of the Ukrainian territory.
So
the other point of view is that the procedure of the consultation with the local community is less cheaper, more cheaper procedure than to organize the local referendum on every renaming of the street, for example. On the other hand, if we see that this law on local referendum may be adopted by the next Ukrainian parliament, it will not have the reverse usage for the process that started and ended before that law was adopted.
Okay, and let's also discuss the latest, because unfortunately we don't have much time, we're running out of it. Recently, in the end of June in Kyiv, the Stepan Bandera Avenue and Roman Shukhevich Avenue, both named after nationalist representatives of Ukraine's independence movement and also Ukrainian insurgent army. So we're talking about these two streets. Before decommunization, they used to be called the Moscow Avenue and General Vatutin Avenue. So the District Administrative Court of Kyiv recently decided to restore these old names due to the violation of renaming procedure. What is your take on that?
So nowadays we are preparing the claim into for the appeal court because we are not agree with this decision.
Yes, and Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko also stated that the appeal
yesterday,
is being
even I spoke with my colleagues from the Kyiv City Council, with the lawyers of the Kyiv City Council who were the representatives in the court, and they are also preparing their claim to the appeal court. On the other hand, I'm not agree with the decision of the court where it is written that the renaming of these two prospects were done according to the law on decommunization, because it was another procedure that was written by the other law, and it is not up to the procedure of decommunization, but it is not. It is only the process of glorification the people who were fighting for the freedom of Ukraine during the 20th century.
And do you have any update on appeal preparation?
We have 30 days for the preparation of the claim to the appeal court, and this term starts from the day of the 5th of July, when the full text of this decision was made by the court. So to the end of this month, we shall send our claim to the appeal court.
Thank you so much. Let's see how the situation will be evolving. I think that the Kyiv residents are very much interested to see that decommunization is being actually implemented. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you for being a guest today in our studio. That was Serhiy Ryabenko, expert of the Institute of National Remembrance. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more with UATV.